It's a support wall. And it's a pretty wall, so,
So really just gutting the whole thing and then
Yeah.
redesigning.
yep.
So if an architect draws this, would we still have Keller General? The whole
No,
thing?
no. So Keller, we hired them to ascertain if the buildings were feasible to be used or if they thought we should demolish them. Well, they kind of gave us that answer with the Public Works building. But they're in the business. Their business is building. So of course they're going to kind of try to talk us into building a building, so, or two.
Well, they get one and a remodel. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and you know, that is not so because we will have to put it out to bids no matter
sure,
what.
sure.
So
The remodel would be us putting out the bids.
yeah, and
As
so would
far
the
as other
building.
building, it would be, yeah, that would be out for bids too,
Yep.
but they would be
Yeah,
part of it, so.
yeah. They'd be more than willing to bid. And believe it or not, the one company that I was not a real big fan of, Jim, and I'm sorry, was Altman Construction. And she raved about Altman Construction.
I
So,
would withhold a sizable chunk.
Yeah.
When you walk through your building.
yeah, Tom, I guess with Tom at the lead now, it's supposed to,
Tom's okay.
he's
I've
got
worked
it,
with him.
he's got a handle on things. And it didn't used to be like that. So, and they're close. I mean, we should, you know, try to keep it
Absolutely.
in our neighborhood, you know, use like, you know, plumbers, we got Pellner right here in town. So we are, you know, we should try to use who we can.
Well, it's about bids again.
It will be about bids, but, you know, they don't have far to go either. So their bid should be lower. So I guess I'm looking at direction for the board and that's up to you. Thank you.
Well, I guess what you want from us is a recommendation to the board to, hire Gordy or pursue this avenue.
Yeah,
correct?
I would. I think that would be in our best interest.
But we don't know what the cost is at
No.
this point. And I
Do you want the board to have a ceiling or, I guess, I don't know.
I think
Gordy would be fair.
I think he would be too.
And I would
I
have no
wouldn't-
idea realistically what
Yeah.
would
Right.
be.
I mean, I don't think
if we're gonna
That's
spend, if we're gonna spend money, we might as well spend it with
The design.
somebody that knows the building
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
knows the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
isn't
and
spending
he's-
money, we might be saving money.
Yeah.
Well, it will be.
Very,
Exactly, yeah.
By giving the architect way more information than we would ever be able to.
I'll ask
Almost
him,
got my vote.
I'll ask him what he wants and then
I'll put it on the table.
I'll have the board look at it. And then, okay, now what about an architect? What should we do about that?
Hold off.
Well, I think
Well,
you
let's
wait
find out
until
prices.
you see this, yeah.
Let's find out prices.
I think
Okay.
you just
Don't
wait
hurt
and
to have
see
a
what he
price.
comes up with.
Kinda hard to get a
Yeah.
price if they don't know what they're.
Yes,
Bidding.
no, that's
No, give me an
not.
hourly price.
Yeah, they'll tell you how much it's gonna cost you to get a full set of plans. They'll give you the hourly rate and their mileage. So I can get all that.
I think
For
we
the
should
I
next
do
can
that.
get base pricing, yeah.
I can do
Yeah.
that.
Then
We
way
can-
the next meeting we can come
So-
together with some of this.
So we should recommend, to the board to hire Gordy for the initial design
Yeah,
and,
prices for an architect.
search out pricing for
Basically,
architects.
yeah, basically.
Okay.
pricing of architects.
So these are the architect firms that Baber Architecture LLC out of Hewitt. Thrive Architects, they're the ones out of Madison and Appleton, they got offices. And then SPA Architecture, and they're out of,
Medford.
it must be, it's a 574 exchange, I'm not sure. So
And those were the three.
those were the three that were recommended,
Recommended.
yeah.
And again, I would not have any knowledge either way on those, so if those were recommended and
I will
other municipalities have used them favorably, I would say. look
check
for
out all
base.
three.
Check them out.
I've got a question on the truck shop. I'm just gonna open up a can of worms here, but if we're having Gordy look at this, I'm not convinced, about the beams and all the electrical stuff and
Okay.
and the new sheeting on the outside, if that's gonna offset the cost of a new one. I understand what you're saying. If we're gonna tear everything out, we're gonna just end up with beams. I don't know if we have to tear everything out, or
Okay.
to what extent we need a new section of concrete and maybe not the whole building. And can we add on to like the ends of that building, on the gable ends, and can we have Gordy kind of sketch something out for an office area or a break room area and a bathroom, if he's working with us, if that would be something that we could at least entertain. And I'm going back to, we have to have something. We can't just say this building's bad. We have to have numbers. We have to have reasons as to why we're gonna try to convince the public out there that this building's not feasibly usable anymore. We have to build a new one.
Okay,
Unless we do diligence of check to make sure that that building is completely
Shot.
condemned.
Okay.
So Susan couldn't do that, correct?
Well,
she told me that if the structural members are bent and welded, they can still be, she can have them exposed, they can be re-welded and
You could put money into it.
replaced, yes. But basically, the structural members are the only thing that we're saving on that building, because the floor has to go
Yeah.
because of the drains. It has nothing to do with the floor integrity. The cracks that are in the floor, those are just stress.
And if we build a new building, we gotta put a floor in.
Yeah,
Right.
So it's a wash.
that is a wash.
It is a wash, except you don't know what your beams are sitting on yet.
I am more worried, to be honest, I'm worried about the floor, but I'm more worried about if we try to add on to that building. It's never a good fit to add on to a metal building, especially when you don't have like footings. How do you connect those two buildings? It would have to be on the gable ends. I mean, we can't build this way, we have to build this way. And the pitch would have to match, and it would have to be lower than the building here. But, so we're adding on to this building, we're tearing up the floor, we're reskinning it. So what are we saving?
If we add on each end, I'm just, this
Yep.
hypothetical, because
Sure.
we're still, and put 2 bays on each end. Now we got our 4 new bays with new concrete. We use the center area as a storage area. We don't have to fix the concrete there we have the
We don't need
usable
storage.
areas. Okay,
you mean like equipment storage,
yeah,
like
for
tractor?
for everything that we have.
I know we
But
have
the
a storage
usable
building.
spaces that the guys wanna use, they might wanna have where we need a wash bay and a good floor for whatever work they're doing. That would be the additional parts of it, which instead of building a whole brand new building, we don't have to do as much, and then add on for bathrooms and offices and stuff, I guess. I don't know if Gordy would be willing to do that, or if the board would even entertain that thought that,
I can tell you that
Okay.
Gordy was not comfortable with doing anything on that metal building.
okay.
The other thing is I know you said about adding bays on each end. The Keller's design is only 24 feet longer than that building.
Do you guys have Keller's design for that building? Did you guys ever get a floor plan for that?
Did he get
For
was
the
there another
existing
one?
building?
Yeah, no, for a new one. Did you
Yeah.
ever get a floor plan for the Public Works building?
Just-
It's in the book.
Yeah,
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know he sent me one and I don't know if everybody has it.
An updated one?
I don't know that the floor plan ever changed for the Public Works building.
Okay.
Just location, that's.
No,
about
not
it.
the location, an actual floor plan.
Well,
I have a floor plan.
there was never really a.
Okay,
I don't think we have.
he sent it to me in an email, so let me get it.
The only pictures I have are where it's located.
We have to
Well, I
adjust
asked
the
him measurements because he told me it wouldn't fit.
I'm not sure, like Chase had a folder here of stuff.
It's where it sits individual.
Well, those we have, it was the floor plan itself. I
No,
thought that's what
that I
it
don't
said,
think we had.
Okay.
because I have all the pictures.
Well, Lorelai's got it.
Unless you're looking at just.
This is it.
there's the floor plan with the.
This is the only one I got. I can print more off.
Oh, no, I've never seen that.
Okay.
It's
That one I was okay with. He also sent me a plan for a new building for adding on to here.
No.
But he didn't do it, and neither did the other guy, Rob. He had somebody else do it, and I could tell because the verbiage was wrong, the rooms were wrong. It was just not at all what we talked about. And I collared him on it, and he said, just throw it away, but I never did. But the Public Works one, I think that was kind of everything that we had discussed. And if you want, I can make copies for everybody.
So this one went back to having doors front and back?
I don't know.
That was the original design, or the original talk was wash or drive-through bays.
Right.
Do you want me to make a copy for everybody, Christie?
You can blow it up.
I can. I can do that. I can do that.
I'd like to see Gordy.
Isn't part of that
Work on
other
this.
building, it's two sections, isn't it? Where that wall is, to the south is a newer section.
Yeah,
than
one,
the-
I think it is,
So what would happen if a guy took and cut that, right at that wall, made that center wall an outside wall, and you're 15 feet between the buildings or whatever, so they go outside to go into the cold storage, instead of trying to attach them?
Is there drain in that south side?
I don't
I
know.
don't
I can't
I
remember.
remember. I walked through it a couple times, I don't remember.
But we would put a drain in a new area.
In the new area, and once everything's thawed out, then they can run it back over there and.
Because that was one of the big concerns, is because of the drainage in there, and
Don't
who
know where it
knows where
goes.
it went.
Yep.
Right.
And whether or not there'd be any mediations in that soil.
Which would be one wash bay on the end with a drain, and then 3 bays if need be, and then the whole rest of the old building just make it.
It's a tough thing to remodel that though, cause you gotta get in there, if you're gonna tear it down, you come in there with grinders and cut all the steel off and just rip the beams down with a backhoe. If you gotta do it all by hand, you got a lot of work, cause you gotta pull it off and leave the beam stand, get in and cut the floor out. It's not an easy thing. There's a lot of labor to it.
When we were talking, maybe I was mentioning leaving the floor in the old building, leaving it as it is.
Well, whether or not we can, well, we gotta figure out,
We gotta figure out the drains though.
yeah,
Well, we were talking that if we have 4 new stalls, that would be the drains.
well, I'm not talking about new drainage, I'm talking about what's down there now. Does it have to be dug up and replaced?
Or you're talking about just capping it off and not
Yeah.
using it anymore.
What's that?
The existing drain.
Yeah.
There's holes in the
existing
floor,
drain,
yeah, but see, where did it go, what's it there?
Right.
You
I
know,
don't know.
we're talking environmental now.
I have no idea about that. I mean, it's,
Maybe just a 55-gallon drum underneath the
what
concrete.
difference
Who
does it
knows
make? We
back
could
then?
still be using it for the next 20 years if we weren't going through this.
You actually
So-
shouldn't be right now.
No, probably. Well, then we should address it right now at this meeting, that we should maybe be sticking a scope down there and see where it goes.
It's how you come up
I
with,
think it goes down through the middle of this subdivision over here. Towards Dan's house. I don't know.
I don't have any oil, so.
your water still runs clear, Dale? Don't smell like that, don't
No
like?
fuel oil smelling in your water. That's a whole nother.
I did digging right on West Grand there where the ground would light up if you hit stone. With the backhoe bucket, light and burn off and then you just dig some more.
Well, the old Saratoga grocery had leaky tanks.
Yep,
Sure.
thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. My eyes appreciate it.
That's as big as I could get it on
No,
one piece of paper.
that's so much better. Thank you.
Or north, so. What's this one? So this is, oh, a second, maybe better than this.
So I'm gonna collect those things from Gordy though, because I gotta play with them yet. I promised him I'd do that.
Okay, so he's got a 50-foot wide. Let's see.
Yeah. Did you get one?
Yeah, we got one. I thought I'd seen this once before, but maybe not.
100 and-
I might have showed it to you, Josh.
Maybe I just looked at it.
It's like 140 feet long.
Oh, I do have the, get back to this one here.
It's 50 by 100.
Kind of poor, but this is with the
Just
hall
100?
attached. You can
Yeah.
kind of see what.
I got
Oh,
the
yeah,
regular
okay, that.
size.
makes
here.
sense.
It's gotta be more than 100.
Yeah, because the existing one's 124.
Here's the hall, and this
Says
is
right
that
here,
big
50
storage
by
room.
100,
got it,
5,000
got it.
square feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this
Like
is just kind of a depiction. This would be the hall, but here's where the big storage room would be.
Okay.
But again, this is really, really preliminary.
Right here is 145 feet.
Garage probably right there. 5,000 square feet. Exactly. But that probably does
That might be just that.
That's
That might
just,
be this.
that, yes.
Right.
And then this is 22 feet, the way if I read that right.
You know, Rob, I think Gordy would be willing to play with the, you know, the plan that Keller had there for, you know, changing the size of the rooms to more accommodate our needs here in the town. It's just that, you know, it's hard for him to go from a concrete building to a metal building. Metal buildings are kind of an animal all their own. Mostly because they're built with such hairline snow loads.
We don't have an existing blueprint on that building, do we?
Sure.
That,
You mean the town hall?
No, the other one.
No.
Because whether or not those beams are sitting on the proper footings is the next question.
yeah, they could be whether
On
the
slab.
footings are
They could be
down,
sitting on the mono, yeah.
And
or
that's
the whole
not,
thing is floating.
Yep.
Whether they ever put any footings in to start with and then built up from there.
because that's a pretty good sized building to sit on mono.
I'll have to say the engineer was very impressed at how well made that town hall was. And the floor system that I thought was brought in, it was cast in place, which is better because it's got rebar in it.
Oh, you mean over the basement? Yeah, it looks pretty solid.
Yep, it's all got rebar in it.
So if we at least keep it and don't update that original building we have right now
Yep.
for everything and use it for storing the trucks and everything else we need. If we have to fix a couple beams, so be it, but and insulate it here and there, but and not make any updates to the bathrooms or anything, do all that with the new construction. At least it's still a functional building for the guys to use to store everything and keep everything inside.
Well, at very least, if you wanted to keep that building, you should rip some of the floor up and see where the drain's going because the trucks leak stuff. That's the biggest problem. And no matter what happens, if snow runs off of it, if salt runs off of it,
I think that's another hard sell to the residents that we're gonna tear a building down. That's gonna be,
oh, I don't
Closer
know.
to
If that was mine, I wouldn't give it.
Good. Well, we can, I still need, some sort of motion to, recommend to the board to hire Gordy for administration building plans.
And the investigation of the architect.
Investigation of the architect,
Price, yeah.
architect pricing,
Do you want me to make a motion?
if you would, yes.
Okay, I make a motion that the board hire Gordy Whipperford for designing plans for the hall. Do you want me to make all in one?
Whatever you.
And inquire on the 3 architects for base pricing.
I already have it.
You already have it?
Good.
Yeah, I'm
You
just
had the-
waiting for.
You had that roll for
I was
25
waiting
minutes?
before, but I'll have them tweak it, but I
You
know
had that
what
roll
I
for
have.
25
You are
minutes.
totally fine with me.
All right, we have a motion by Christie for the, recommend approval of the board to hire Gordy for the designs and inquire pricing for an architect. That is the motion. Do I have a second?
Don't everybody jump.
I'll second that motion, absolutely.
Rob's got it.
Second by Rob, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Mention to him that if he wants to go above and beyond, he can also draw us up some plans for Public Works. Right? Every plan we can get is.
Oh, yeah.
What was that lady's name? Susan what?
Susan Lasecki,
Spell it.
Lasecki.
And then she was from a firm or no?
Yes, she's from Ionic Structures and Design.
Spell, oh, Ionic. Okay. Structure and design.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Are they over in that, used to be a gasket company by the railroad tracks?
Oh, maybe, I don't know. I don't know where she's out of.
Cause I thought that was the name of the company. They're looking to purchase the, what's the outfit right by, the racetrack.
No, that's owned by, it's owned by a contractor, by a builder. Yeah. I can't remember which one. Okay,
All right, we ready to move on to item number 8?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Zoning ordinance for 2025. Notice I didn't say finalize. And the reason for that,
I know, I typed it all.
it is all typed up. Lorelei's got it.
Yeah, that's, the front page is, that will have to be,
Updated?
it has to be updated because we don't know when it's actually going or staying.
Hearing me?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just,
Yeah, it just says count, not count.
yeah,
Yeah, there's no more. I saw that too.
that's okay.
I
I didn't,
proofread-
I
I
didn't do
proofread that
anything
page.
on the front page at all.
I proofread that page already. So, it was brought up earlier that, we inserted the
Outlot.
The outlot definition or
Yeah.
verbiage.
Yeah.
Was there anything changed from the April minutes for easements or access?
Ooh, hasn't been addressed yet.
And I thought that there was changes made.
I've been making changes as we go along in pencil in my own zoning book, and I have all the changes that I thought we made. And I didn't miss any meetings, so I'm hoping they're all in there.
And I thought after cause you read the April minutes and
Yeah.
there were,
So in April, when we talked about easement verbiage that we would like easement verbiage in there and land subdivision verbiage in there, we decided at that meeting that those interested would bring back, language, to discuss, because, and Adam brought it up very eloquently, like for us to sit here and try to just all of a sudden think of language all by ourselves to put in there, it was going to take a lot of time. So we were going to bring back verbiage for the May meeting, which I had some.
okay,
But then the Keller conversation last month took so long that we tabled the
zoning ordinance.
the zoning, to bring it back again. So I still have some verbiage that I wrote up, and I even made copies, just to share.
And do you remember what section we discussed that in, or where we thought that should be inserted? Or is that was something we were
I think
going
that
to
was
discuss?
something we were going to try to figure out. So I'm just gonna pass around this verbiage that there are two very quick statements. And I'm not married to any of them. I didn't exactly know where to go with them myself. But we talked mainly, number one, about the easement, that we know that the county doesn't allow easements, but that kind of depends on who is in that position. that the person now is saying that you can't have easements, but the person prior was kind of lackadaisical and let them. And I think we had all kind of agreed at the meeting a couple different times that we needed some kind of basic
Oh, do you want a
wording.
copy of this?
Yeah,
And I have extra, yeah.
Well,
Just
I'm
some
sorry.
basic wording to protect ourselves, that we're not gonna allow.
you know what's right in there.
They're all in there, Rob. You still read it?
And I did create something regarding land division only because, you know, we have brought that up multiple times. My personal thought is now with our new driveway ordinance and our zoning, it kind of is addressed, but maybe just a single statement stating like this is our process. For lack of a better word. So I would gladly like to hear input.
Isn't that already in there?
I see, and I
See,
couldn't
and I
find it in the
see it.
stuff that we
I
had.
looked up page 8, go to page 8, where it says easements and definitions, that last sentences. And,
Page what?
Page
well,
8
just
about
under
halfway down.
easement.
That's the definition of
That last,
easement?
Yeah.
that is,
Yeah. I mean the land division, I don't mean the easement, I didn't
can't
look
be
at that one.
established.
I know there's so many
Can't
pages, I
use
tried to
an
find
easement.
stuff, like where it could go.
Right where you could divide it.
Well, what,
So I just stuck to giving the statement and letting us
Public
figure out
road
where.
right
Okay.
away is a public road.
Well, that was one of the things we discussed, is an easement can be a public right of way.
And maybe land division should be a definition.
But that's only on
Oh,
commercial,
that could
right?
be.
It'll only be
Well,
a public right away on commercial,
Well, that,
not on.
because
private.
like, Wanzel's off at 13
That's
is an
commercial.
easement.
But that's a commercial property.
Yeah, it was also a condo plat,
You're right, condo plat.
so it's allowed in a condo plat,
an easement
Yeah.
to access condo plat is an easement.
but that's
okay.
commercial, yeah. Condo plats are commercial.
Yeah, but the easement to get to it, but we went through this before, but.
That's
when-
why his
when
went
it happens
through.
again, or what are we gonna do when someone wants to come in off of 73 and
So under this, we would not have authorized Al Wenzel's plat.
Nor would we have authorized Pavleski's, nor would we have authorized,
Because this says commercial on it also.
which we keep bringing Pobleski up as it isn't.
Example.
As we don't want that, I guess. I'm not speaking for everyone, but, we discussed leaning more towards a town road or a business, like what Mr. Wanzel did. Could have been a business
Road.
park with a public road, a
Right.
town road going
Could
in
have
it
been a
with a
town
loop
road, yeah.
around, and we wouldn't have had any easements. We would have had all the street signs it would have been it would have been just a little circle business park with one entrance on a State Highway 13.
Right, with a cul-de-sac at the
And
end.
I don't know who was active with the board at that time and we discussed that or not, but that would have been a more rational way of approaching that rather than using an easement and condo plats. And, because right now, and we go back to the safety issue of, right now, there's 4 address numbers out on State Highway 13 for those 4 units, but that's it. The owner of the properties along State Highway 13 have to put their own up. And so the ambulance comes, there's 4 numbers, which one's which? There's 4 of them there. Whereas if that was an actual public road going in and out, I discussed businesses would have, their road always would be plowed. They'd have access all the time. The fire department would always have access. The utilities would have easier uses of that. And I'm talking in the future projects that we have coming down the road. Using the easement to get into a commercial piece of property is,
Well, what you're
Yes.
pointing out is actually worse than the private ones. If you drive around right now, it's
Yeah.
actually worse than the private ones.
but moving
'Cause-
forward, we were discussing that use of easements on
And I do think that's what we need to focus on, because we can't change what's already done.
no, but that's example moving forward.
Right.
This is what we
So
had,
what-
and these
what
are
do
the
you want
discussions we
moving
had.
what's an unregistered easement?
Well, and that, please feel free to change it. It's
Just don't
the
know
things
what
that
it
we
is.
have out there where, you know,
The old handshake deal.
yes, the old handshake deal, well, this
The
has
end of,
been an easement forever, and now you've sold it to separate parties. Well, it's not really an easement if you haven't ever had it
So that's
registered.
recorded,
Okay, you change it however you want.
okay.
Literally, this was
recorded
just
easements.
my uneducated attempt to
Unrecorded.
try to
Nope,
do it.
no, I'm just trying to figure out where you're coming from.
An
so that's-
unrecorded easement would be the end of Bepler Road.
Absolutely.
That would be an unrecorded easement.
Yeah.
It's been an easement for
Or
50 years.
one right
Until
now
now.
that's going to court and Saratoga is involved is the gentleman who passed away on a trail off from Bell Road, Joslin.
That's a handshake.
That was a handshake.
And I guess that's what I'm referring to. You know, there is no legitimacy to those aside from a handshake, and now you sell to somebody totally
That's the
uninvolved
problem.
with that family.
The
That's
daughter
the problem.
inherited it. I think it was the daughter inherited it,
Yeah.
and she wants to sell it off.
And the guy that
And-
just bought the land that has one of the properties that cross for that easement says, no, you don't have a right. I'm not gonna let you. Okay, there's 3 houses that now have no access to their properties. And it's not recorded. So now Saratoga's involved. Why'd you give them building permits? Because back then, when Wood County had somebody that didn't follow the letter of the law, allowed it,
And that again goes back to why I
We
do
got
think
stuck.
we need a statement like this in our zoning.
okay,
So where that belongs or how we word this,
okay.
definitely up for discussion. This was just, like I said, my uneducated
Well,
attempt to
and
try to
that-
get something in
I
writing.
think, Carl Smith would be willing to negotiate.
Okay. Sounds good.
What about moving
I don't
forward,
know who the rest of them are.
connecting multiple driveways on that
No.
one parcel with an easement, cause that's happened before.
But
where-
this one,
Easements are allowed.
the wording
But it
the
doesn't
wording
cross his
itself
property.
does not allow that.
But should we
But
be
he
more
would be
specific
willing
with
to
that?
negotiate a town road.
I don't think it's necessary.
do
No
some research and
driveway
found
or
that she
road
has an
access
easement for one
easements shall
home.
be granted.
I mean, she has
has
unrecorded.
access,
No, she has a
So
recorded
if you
easement.
can't get one to begin with, you can't
And
be
then there's
attached to
access
them.
off the other
Right.
road
It'd have
that
to
she
be a roadway.
owns as well.
A public road right away,
Right.
meaning
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I'm the road.
yeah, I know,
We're
I
not-
know.
We're not going to grant easements. You don't have to worry about easements
Yes, I'm
right
sure
next
she
to each
is.
other because they're not getting the
You
first
can
one.
tell her like 10 times. So what are
Is that
you,
gonna be a conditional use?
what are you trying to
Easements,
accomplish
yeah.
with this easement? Just tell me in plain language what you're trying to accomplish and then maybe I can word it.
I'm trying to accomplish that,
We don't allow easements
that we don't
anymore.
allow easements. So even if
nothing.
Wood County decides to get somebody that says, okay, now we're gonna allow them, our zoning states that we're not going to
So it
allow
is
them.
theirs, actually.
I know it does, but it
Yeah.
depends on who has that position at the time.
But we, in
So I
our,
don't care what Wood County said. I would
but
like
we
our
can't do
zoning.
that now. Because we said in here that we will adopt Wood County's land division ordinance. We have that in here.
So,
So we will have to then supersede that or say that we adopt Wood County's land ordinance except in this position, in this reference. That's what I'm saying.
we can't mirror theirs with our own language?
We can, but why would we?
Right.
I mean,
No.
all we have to say is that we accept their land ordinance, however, this would hold true.
We
in
can
Saratoga.
enforce it no matter what.
We don't
Posted up
enforce
there.
it, they
But
don't.
I mean, I'm just saying, we don't
Yeah,
have
Well,
to allow the
there, see
easement.
there, and that's the problem. If we don't enforce it, they do. And even though theirs have said in the past they don't allow easements, they've allowed them.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think we,
Does it go to the county before us?
yes,
So
yes.
if the county's already given their blessing?
yeah. But they've also let people buy landlocked pieces of land too. And we don't have a thing to say about it. But we've made our own mistakes. I mean,
Right.
you know, and
So I don't know if maybe what you're referencing that where we have adopted theirs and
then we can make an exception. We can say, we will adopt theirs, but not in its entirety. This is the exception,
I'm fine with that. I just really think it should be.
okay?
No, what are you saying?
So that means
Are
we
you
won't accept any,
accepting
yeah,
easements or not?
no.
Not.
So that
So
means we
then-
won't accept any subdivisions,
So
any
then-
condos?
The 5 acre parcels right over here
Yep.
that one Zell's got will not be allowed anymore.
Right, that's what she's
He
saying.
cannot get an access to a 5 acre parcel on, this property right over here, if it wants to be subdivided, or divided, will not happen because it cannot get an access.
That's what they're saying.
Well, you could draw your CSM up so they own it all the way to the road.
No, there's no
No,
access.
there's still no.
There's no access.
That
They
is what
cannot
an
get a
easement is.
driveway. They cannot get a driveway on Highway 73 or Highway 13.
Because our ordinance as written says you need 75 feet of frontage
That
on
I
a
disagree
road.
with, but go ahead.
However, this would, it doesn't say it, this would say that you also can't access, if you divide up a 40, you can't access the back of that 40 without putting in a road. The problem with that is, even if they put in a road, that doesn't mean the town of Saratoga is gonna accept the road. I mean, even if it's made to our standards, maybe we don't wanna accept it for some reason or another. Maybe we don't have the ability to plow it. We don't wanna plow it because it ends in a cul-de-sac in the middle of nowhere and there's only one person that lives on it. I don't know if this is a good idea. I understand what you're saying, but
I mean, Dan, when you're mentioning this plot and that plot, I don't have enough history in this town to know what Lonzo
Oh, okay.
owns or what John Smith owns
Yeah.
or, you know, we have
Well-
talked about the easements, and we have all talked about how they have caused issues in the community
right.
over and over and over. So this is something that we have talked about, is to not allow them.
And the easements that have caused issues have been the
Private
unrecorded.
ones.
The
All private.
unrecorded easements.
Unrecorded.
And private. The commercial ones we haven't had a problem with because they have the, let's use those storage units. They have an easement road, you know, just like L1Zell does. They haven't, but you live on an easement. Yours is a private road,
Ours is private.
yeah. So,
It's owned by all of us, but we changed all of that. But
it's still an
most people
easement.
don't.
No matter who owns it,
Most
it's still an
people don't.
easement because it's not a road.
Um,
So
but
if we don't allow that anymore, realize we're not gonna be selling a lot of properties.
Well, like I said, the 40 acres right over here is 40 acres. That's all you got.
Yep. You're
That's
not-
all you can do with it.
I think that's
You're
the way,
restricted.
I think that's the way most townships are, if there's one driveway per parcel. If you wanna make a bunch of parcels in there, I still feel the best way to do it would be to put a town
Well,
road in.
we all
Make
agree.
a cul-de-sac on the end and make it desirable for people to build houses on.
I think we all
Where there's
agree
no
that,
question on who's taking care of the road, how the emergency services are gonna get
Yep.
down it, and all of that. I think that moving forward, we're trying to get away from that, or I would hope we are anyways, to try to, and if that means it's more of a cost to the person who wants to split that 40 up, that's the way all the other townships.
even our graveyard road though is a,
Well, I wouldn't,
we have a house coming off our graveyard road.
What is the graveyard road? I don't.
Oh, Pioneer Cemetery?
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't say all the other townships. I split 120 out in
Yeah.
Siegel where I took 33 feet
Yeah.
and made it part of
Town
the
of-
back parcel.
Sure,
Town
but
of
that's
Port
not an
Edwards doesn't do
easement.
that
That's
either.
not an easement.
That's a flag lot, and that's okay. We're saying,
Yeah.
I'm guessing that,
So you-
we haven't said we can't have flag lots.
So you wanna do it for commercial, residential, and recreational, and all land?
Lorelei, please understand that this was worded as to be fixed.
Yeah.
It's not a, I want to do
Yeah,
this.
I-
This is, like I
guess
said,
I
an
wouldn't recommend
uneducated
doing
attempt
it
to
for
put something in
commercial.
language.
Cause if you do it for commercial, that means you're telling people, you can't come in here with a subdivision, you can't come in here with a condo plat.
Why not? You put a town
Because
road
it-
in. Then
You
do it
wanna,
right.
you wanna tell Poveski's that every one of those
No,
driveways
that-
have to be built?
But that's separate. We're talking moving forward.
Yeah, but
If-
that's telling everybody that we don't want another subdivision like Poveski's. We don't want another subdivision like,
that-
Ferkey's
That
built.
would be a planned unit development if they wanted to approach something like that, or.
But that's
subdivision,
commercial.
They would come to us and say that, I would.
But that's
believe.
commercial, and you just said that you don't want them.
What's commercial?
Oh,
You
that's-
said-
because of the wording
Apparently,
here, you'd have to strike commercial.
Yeah. So, I guess I just need to understand, do you want it like, I don't know, what kind of commercial?
What you're saying, Rob, is a a PUD would have that in its design.
Yeah.
So,
And we
and
would
what
accept
Lorelai's
it.
saying is a PUD would be commercial.
Yeah,
So then,
so is
that would be,
a condo plat,
We'd
so
have
is
to
a
strike it in that
subdivision.
wording. You'd have to strike the word commercial.
we just have to strike the word commercial on it easy.
And recreational,
And my, just so everybody understands what I was thinking of recreational,
yeah,
like, I'm thinking like somebody's hunting land. if they're gonna-
weekly.
But that's, in my mind, when
Okay.
I'm writing this, that's not
So
what I
you're
was
talking
thinking.
about hunting land.
Like,
Well, that's still residential,
okay, so
because
then
it's
you.
privately owned and.
That's
yeah.
fine. I mean, that's what I'm,
Maybe
Yes,
you,
I'm-
maybe you'd be better off with districts.
what do you mean, like, explain what you're talking?
Because you wouldn't have commercial development in yes, you would. You'd come in with a
Like
subdivision.
RS1.
You'd come in with a subdivision.
Well, this language isn't,
Yeah,
Isn't-
that's but I'm bringing up all the things that could be looked at, so we gotta think of something that would make it more,
I don't think we're trying to tell anybody that they can't come in and separate a piece of 40 of land. If, like you said, they can run a driveway off the public road.
The only problem we have right now is that 75 feet. That's a big chunk of land if you're gonna
Well,
do a driveway off the road.
and you're talking about splitting up a 40, but you're telling the people who own land in, over by Rome, that they have 40s, that they can only split it into 5 acres. So now you're telling them that they're only gonna be allowed to have 5 driveways off there, because they need 75 feet, and it's a 40. So,
They don't have to give it that, but
Well, that's getting away from the easement thing.
no, because they can't access the back of their lot.
They can.
Yeah, you're gonna end up with flag lots,
We're gonna
250
put flag-
feet wide.
Right,
Uh,
that's what you would be, a flag
Yeah, I
lot.
think that's worse than an easement, but I agree, I don't like easements in
easement
residential
isn't a
at
town
all.
road.
While we're talking
I don't-
driveways,
then
it
put-
affects, it all
We
affects.
got,
Then put a town road in, if you wanna split a 40 up that deep and into that many parcels.
Well, it depends on how many parcels you want.
Exactly.
If you split it into 6, $100,000 road ain't what you're gonna put in.
if it was 100,000,
I
but
know.
our roads are 700,000.
Yeah,
But doing it with an easement is just.
I think that's
is just-
asinine too.
yeah,
is
yeah,
what we're
absolutely.
trying
Well,
to
these ones
avoid,
aren't
so.
allowed anyway.
But I think they're gonna do it with flag lots, and that scares me even more. Because we didn't pass an ordinance for a flag lot, we passed a recommendation. So,
Well, all right, easements, the easements are not allowed now, right? Except in.
they're
commercial.
not,
Right.
technically they're not, but Christie is right. Previous to,
The individual that's doing
Yeah,
zoning now did
Yeah.
allow them, and they
Yeah.
were supposed to be.
yeah,
But if they're registered
yeah, and the
With
problem
the-
is they're not.
with that one is,
Yeah,
I don't know if this one is, I think it is. But if it's registered, then takes all the legal part of it off the responsibility off the town.
That's,
The county don't like it, that's tough, but let them argue with the county.
yeah,
But
that's,
I just-
that's agreeably. I'd rather have them argue with the county than us any day of the week.
Yes, but I'll just change it to the fact that first sentence, and then just add without
right.
required legal.
Registration with the county,
Yeah,
I've read this a few times.
recorded.
I've read this a few times, and while I think we should possibly strike commercial from that sentence, I think we could incorporate the second sentence in the first sentence to have it just one run-on sentence, whatever you want to call it.
See, you just want it to be a recorded, if it is gonna be
If it's-
allowed, you want it to be recorded.
Unrecorded easements will not be recognized as legitimate agreements, but recorded easements would be allowed.
No, they're not allowed through the county. Even a recorded one isn't allowed.
Except in your.
Well, except with
Commercial.
condo plats or subdivisions, but that's an entity all by itself.
Well, if recorded easements aren't allowed at the county level anyway, then we've already adopted this.
Right. But she wants it out there so that they know it, that it's in here.
Like to reiterate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because essentially, we have, in the past, with the what do you call him? The guy that was there before. I mean, what
Planning
is
and zoning up
the
at
planning and
the
zoning
Yeah.
person at the county? The
Jeff
person that was,
Brubaker.
yeah, the guy that was there before, even though in the county it says there is to be no easements, he was letting them pass anyway. And we had nothing in our zoning that said, no, we're not going to. So if the county was saying yes, it was my understanding, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because we didn't have anything in the zoning that said, no, we weren't going to allow them, and the county was saying yes, we kind of had to allow it.
No, we didn't have to allow it. We just didn't know about it.
Sure.
I mean, in our world, it was already there. We didn't know it came by last year or 2 years from then. We didn't know it was recorded or not recorded because we didn't have that knowledge.
But when new ones were coming in, and they were getting,
I don't
they
know
were
that
allowing.
we've had any.
When, I guess that is what was
Yeah.
portrayed, that I understood as that individual, when somebody was coming in and splitting something and he granted an easement, we didn't have anything in writing that says we weren't, so they got it. And now this new person that is there is following what she interprets as a letter of the law, and easements are not allowed, and so they're not coming down to us. But my fear is, what if we flip again and somebody else gets back in there again, and now they're letting
So
these
Lorelei.
easements come through?
Emily is not going to let them come in, but
So the
I
question-
realize that, but who's gonna
Right.
replace Emily?
right, and who polices it here? I mean, how do we know?
So the question is, if we adopt county ordinance and the county allows it in violation of their own ordinance, can we enforce that ordinance because we adopted it?
Yes, if we know
Okay.
about it, yes. But
So
the reason we
it's
don't know though, Chrissy, is because when the individual off Kester Road was selling property, he was always selling more than 10 acres. So that's not reviewable by
That's not
us.
reviewable by us.
So when those people are buying the land and now they want to build houses and they're coming to us and they want a building permit and we're not giving it to them, yeah, there's a few things that are, especially when the individual passed away. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay. So it's not all the time that we notified that these easements
Oh, yeah,
are going
no,
through, but.
that's the biggie. I mean, I have it right behind me. Mr. Blisky owns a road and he's a builder and his house is right behind mine. But down that road, there is a mobile home, there's a house that he rents out. And I mean, they're all coming off a driveway and they all have all these address signs right there. And sure, when an ambulance comes, they're gonna be confused. But
So-
I think that's kind of our fault. I
don't
think
know
we
how to
gotta do
address that.
something to do with our address signs.
So we have legal standing based on adoption of the county ordinance, no
Yes.
matter what the county does?
Yep.
Okay.
But we just have to know about it.
And we're not gonna know about it if it's less than 10 acres.
Right now, we're not gonna know about less than 10, but in talking to Emily a few months ago, they were trying to change that. They were gonna try to make us know about it for any land change. But it's government, so it's gonna take a
I
while.
thought the county's land use ordinance only involved with shoreland zoning.
Nope, no,
I had
their
never
land
seen-
use, yes,
Never saw
but not
that.
their land division.
Never saw a land division ordinance with the county.
Okay, excuse me, I'll get it and I'll let you guys use it.
When we were talking land subdivision, we're not anymore, but when we were, and even way back when Tom was here, one of his ideas was, and it's, Rome adopted it, not that we have to, but they had so many flag lots from these developers coming in and buying 40s.
I
and making
actually
flag
refer to
lots.
it almost on a daily basis, so.
They went to a 4-to-1 ratio, so that means the front has to be one part as 4 parts deep. So when you split up a 40, you end up with,
Oh,
you follow it, you
Yeah.
can, they're eliminating flag lots, but it's 4-to-1 ratio of any
because-
size of lot you wanted.
That
That's
is-
what Rome did, our neighbor,
yeah,
to
because
avoid
I like
flag lots,
that,
flag lots,
I
flag
like that
lots.
better than the 75 feet of frontage because
But
that,
Rome's almost
that would,
mobile homes.
if you look around Saratoga right now, that would
Almost
cut out
all
about
those people
30%
who live in travel
of the built
trailers.
area, if it would have
Year
been,
round.
that's your tax base. If that would have been
With
an
address
ordinance
tiles
30
and
years ago.
everything.
Yep,
Well, we mapped
he's in
this
his
all
house
out.
now.
I mean, we went through all these, how you can split up
he's in there.
forties. Some of us did,
Looks like he
looked
started
at
tearing
them.
some of the stuff
Well, it ain't
off.
just 40s. I mean, there's people that own,
Yeah,
if
it's
you own
10.
15,
Yep,
you can have at least 2 buildable lots. You can have your kids
Yes.
build behind you or something like that.
yes. But
But the 75
But to
feet
have
is
an
a tough
easement
thing.
going back to your kid's house, that's, I think.
No, have to have
what-
driveway.
That's what we're trying to.
Yeah,
I can see
Address.
why we wouldn't wanna do that, because, you know, people are selling off the back 20 acres, one to each kid, you know, I got 5
Yeah.
lots and I want each of my kids to have them. So I'm just gonna make an easement road, they can use this driveway.
no, make them a
But
driveway.
the problem is, one of their kids decide, I don't wanna live by my family, I'm selling this to Joe Blow.
He's the
Well,
one in the middle.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and
Exactly
that's
right.
where the big issue comes, and you can contest to that. Because it becomes a really big problem when there's sales.
Mhm.
And, of course, then who plows it, who maintains it, all that come into play. So Christie, I have an idea. We have a definition of easement in our book. And it says authorization for a property owner for use by another and for a specified period.
Tell me what page you're on.
Page 8 of our old one. I don't know on the new one, I don't have.
Yeah, that's
It's on,
Same
it's
one.
on 8. Yep, I
Okay.
see it.
Wonderful. So if we add on there, note, Town of Saratoga does not allow unregistered easements as access to properties,
Recognize,
Recorded,
unrecorded.
unrecorded.
recognize unrecorded.
That would stop what's going on now.
Yeah, I think we should have it in there somewhere that we do not recognize.
Okay. So if I put in there Town of Saratoga does not recognize
Unregistered easements.
unrecorded easements as property accesses or as,
Legitimate access?
what do we have here? As frontage streets, as frontage to
Road
properties?
road right away frontage.
As right away frontage? Does that sound,
Well, I think the county says something like,
as frontage for property builds for construction?
Get this one established and we'll go from there, yeah.
the county, I think the county says no property main access shall be an easement.
Dan's got it there.
No, it says that you cannot use an easement as a
Primary source of
as a
access.
means of
Yeah,
access,
primary.
ingress and egress
Ingress and egress, yeah.
to a property. It cannot be used for that.
The state does allow it in certain instances though.
Egress and ingress.
To a public road right away.
Mhm.
To a parcel.
701.05.
So-
And look it up.
If I put on here, Town of Saratoga does not recognize unrecorded easements as ingress or egress to a parcel.
Connecting the parcel to a public road.
No, just to a parcel.
Doesn't
doesn't
matter
have-
where it's connected.
But that would connect,
doesn't
then
matter
you
where-
could connect two parcels then.
That's private.
That's the-
You can connect two parcels. They don't need town approval to do that.
Can you read that one more time, please?
Town of Saratoga does not recognize unrecorded easements as means of egress or ingress to a parcel.
From a
Or
public-
parcels.
From a public road right away.
But that's any person,
To
even a
parcel.
private drive.
Yeah. So what are you saying from a road? What do you mean from a road? Where else would you get a easement?
That would be the only place you would be.
Right, so then you wouldn't even have to say that.
I know, I think that's what the county says, but
Oh, does it?
yeah, I'm pretty sure it does.
Okay, he's
From
got the
public
county there in
road right
front.
away, yeah, it's 701.05.
What is it? Yeah, he's got that.
Yeah, 71,
So what's it say, Dan?
7105.
What's the exact
701.
verbiage?
What do you want?
The town of Saratoga does not recognize unrecorded easements as a means of ingress or egress to a parcel, and then in parentheses, I have an S, parcels. Is that what it says in there?
Well, you can look to see what you wanna refer to. I would just refer to
Okay.
the county 701.
He said 5. He said
.05,
I got it.
701.
I got it.
.05.
We add in accordance to.
It doesn't,
It says easements shall not be used as a sole means of providing ingress and egress.
where does it say that in here?
That's 701.05, but I could not find it in there, but
I got 7015. I think the interpretation there is, Rob, they're telling you what is considered like an arterial highway, collector street, cul-de-sac, frontage road, or half street. And by definition, easement doesn't meet it. So I think that's how he's telling you that. It doesn't say a thing about an easement. So I would say by lack of stating it is what it means it would not qualify. I wonder if it's. Okay, it is, actually, it is in the definition. A right-of-way granted but not dedicated for a limited specific use of private land. Easements shall not be used as a sole means for providing ingress and egress. And that's as a definition. So I can use that same verbiage.
yes.
Sure.
Is that all right? All right.
Use that same verbiage as the easement.
After the definition, I'll put that in parentheses. Okay.
And that would suffice being in the definition section?
Yeah,
It wouldn't have to be anywhere else in the document?
no, because that is part of the document, so that holds
Okay.
true.
Is that,
Doesn't have to be numbered or
So
anything.
you could probably just change
I-
that whole verbiage on the.
I can
easement here.
put in there,
Have it numbered.
well,
In
that's
reference-
what I was just thinking. I mean, we have a definition section, but do we have to mention that same type of verbiage in like section?
Well, in some places, easement has to be written
Reference.
here,
Right.
Yeah.
easement.
Somewhere.
so do you want me to put it in every district? Or, wait,
No,
because we're talking, so the only way that they would want an easement is to build a house, right? Is that a true statement?
No.
No, because there's an
Just
easement on,
divide.
there's an easement on some pole buildings right now.
Or hunting
Yeah,
land,
yeah, I guess you're right. Okay. So,
farmland.
but definitions are legal. I mean,
Well, what he's saying is that if you went through and looked for easement someplace in the ordinance, is it there? The word easement, someplace,
Somewhere where it's been.
Oh.
somewhere in the,
Okay.
you know, as you're paging through, where does
okay.
easement show up at?
Yeah, where does it say,
Where does it fit?
where does it say that